Hey there, it's Liz in the future coming back to tell you, hey, this video is super late because I was having a lot of trouble when it came to actually, getting it to work and all of that good stuff, so technical difficulties, but that's okay because now it's a full video that you can watch and it's gonna be fun. Also, this is starting a new series on my channel. It's gonna be called Fandom Baking, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. Hey, it's Liz, and it is not Monday, so why am I here popping up in your sub box? Well, if you remember from Monday, I said that every day this week I will be posting to one of my channels a Percy Jackson themed video, and I have returned to this channel for some baking. Today I want to make 3 mini Percy Jackson themed treats. They will all be blue, of course, and hopefully a little bit sea themed, but I will obviously be making them vegan and I believe gluten-free. If anything is not gluten-free, I will make sure to pop it up on the screen, and probably with some sort of gluten-free suggestion, because everyone should be able to eat food. For the first thing, I'm starting with something sort of easy, I put in quotes, and we will be making mini blue velvet cupcakes, as well as a vegan cream cheese frosting that will also be blue, of course. And then the next 2 things are a little dangerous because I've never even made the non-vegan version. I've never eaten the non-vegan version. I don't know what I'm going for. It's kind of a shot in the dark, but I have recipes and, Pinterest. I'm gonna be taking some whisks. This is me going back to add to the beginning because I realized I don't think I ever said the 2 other things that I'm making today, but one of them is going to be meringue cookies and the other is going to be macaron cookies. So the things that you will need for the blue velvet cupcakes, not counting the frosting because I'm not there yet, is half a cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of vegan butter, half of a flax egg, 3/4 teaspoons of cacao powder, 3/4 teaspoons of blue food color, half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of gluten-free flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I use Himalayan salt, 1/4 cup of vegan buttermilk, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and if at all possible, 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I missed something! 3/4 teaspoons of vinegar. So the first step will be to cream the butter and sugar in a mixing bowl until it is light and fluffy. Then add the flax egg. So once your butter and sugar have been creamed, they should be all light and fluffy and nice. Like this. I'm quite proud of it because I didn't really know how this was gonna go. Look at that. That is some smooth butter. And now we're gonna add the flax egg. So that's here. So now you're gonna mix the cacao and the food coloring separately so that they form a paste. Gonna mix that up. Might take a hot second, especially if you are using a gel like this. It should mix up probably a little bit faster if you're using just liquid. But anyways, after that is mixed up, you will pop it in the bowl and mix until it's all combined again. Pretty much as soon as you add it in, it becomes a color that Percy would approve of. Now we are going to take our flour and salt and we are going to sift it into the mixture so that it, doesn't get all chunky and stuff, because that's just not fun to deal with. It has been sifted, and now that's your pre-mixture. I should not have sifted that directly into the bowl. You should alternate it with your buttermilk, but we're living life on the edge today. That is really baker's preference, to do it a little bit at a time, just to make sure that it mixes more evenly. It's baker's preference. There is science behind it, but not as much science as forgetting that sugar goes with the wedding crowns. If you're newer to my channel, which you might be, I think about half of you are at this point, go back and watch my Christmas baking video that I made with my girlfriend Abby. It was a wild time. My mom might have cried.
I definitely cried.
I wish Abby was here right now. It would be a disaster and I'd be much less collected, but it would be fun. And once your buttermilk and flour is added in, preferably in increments, you know, alternating. Don't do what I did. Don't live dangerously. Add your 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I would probably say this in every baking video, but most extracts are alcohol-based, which means when it says only use a 1/4 teaspoon, even if you're making 12 mini cupcakes, only use a 1/4 teaspoon. The final aspect of all of this is a bit of a science experiment. Proof that baking is just chemistry. So we're gonna take this 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda in a separate bowl. Separate bowl. This is a definite, you cannot live dangerously. You have to do it in a separate bowl. And then you take 3/4 teaspoons of vinegar. And I know, usually vinegar comes in like a big thing like this. That is why my mother provided me with a droppy thing. Cause that pouring into this little dude would be a catastrophe. She's never this stressed when I'm not filming and baking. I just want to put that out there. So then, it's gonna sizzle around like you're making a volcano. Then, once it's done its fizzing, you're gonna mix in, but you're not gonna like super mix in, you're only gonna mix it in to combine. Don't over mix, because in here, this little reaction going on here, that is adding air into here. We don't want to lose the air. We want fluffy cupcakes, especially since they're gonna be mini. Make sure that they are lined with cupcake liners. Get something to drop them in, and then drop them in. The website, the recipe that I'm using as a reference, said to fill it about 3/4 full. That's kind of difficult to measure, so we're gonna aim more around 2/3, just to be safe, because they are mini, but they will rise. So, playing it safe here. Now we are going to pop these in the oven, which has been preheated to 350, which I can't remember if I've said or not. I'm saying it now, and maybe I'll write it in if I didn't, but we're popping these in the oven at 350 for somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. Could take a little longer, all depending. It's kind of an experiment. I'll let you know. But when a toothpick comes out clean, it's done. Once your cupcakes are completely cooled, and yes, completely, not even a little warm. If you try to frost hot cupcakes, it will melt off. As soon as they are completely cooled, move on to making the frosting. Now this is a vegan cream cheese frosting, so it's going to be, I don't know, if you're like my one friend who doesn't like cream cheese frosting, you can probably use like any other kind of vegan frosting and it'll be fine, but because red velvet is traditionally made with a cream cheese frosting, that is what we are going with here. You will need a 1/4 cup of vegan cream cheese, 4 tablespoons of vegan butter, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of confectioner's sugar, an optional 3/4 teaspoon of lemon juice, and an optional dash of blue food coloring. We are going to be using an electric mixer unless, you know, you want to live life on the edge or prove something to yourself, in which case, I mean, alright. But we are going to beat the cream cheese, butter, vanilla, and lemon juice in a bowl until it is smooth. You are going to take your cup of sugar and slowly add it in. Bit by bit, we're gonna mix this in. So, you can start with just like, I don't know, a little bit, you know, mix it on low as we do this. And then you have delicious cream cheese frosting. That is so good. Okay, maybe don't add the lemon, just to be on the safe side. But that's okay. I don't know why it was in the recipe. Ignore that recipe. That is the moral of the story. So once you have figured out how to get your cream cheese frosting to the right consistency, for me it was adding a little bit more cream cheese, adding a little bit of arrowroot flour, and then popping it in the fridge for a few minutes. Well, a few hours. It's been a hot second. Also, if you hear chomping, it's my dog. She's eating her dinner like a good girl. Yes, she is. So we are gonna get these in the piping bags, and I'm gonna change the battery in my camera because it's dying. We are going to start on the next recipe, which are the macarons. The macarons and the meringues are going to take a real long time. For now, I'm going to tell you the ingredients to make your macaron actual shells. You will need 100 grams of powdered sugar, 100 grams of ground almonds or almond flour, 75 grams of the juice of a chickpea split into two. By the way, I mean like when you open a can of chickpeas and there's all that juice, that's what we're using for this because it's a great substitute for egg, apparently. We're gonna see how it goes. 100 grams of caster sugar, 25 grams. Nope, grams. That wouldn't make sense. This should be 25 milliliters of water. And finally, just a little dab of blue coloring paste. Now, measuring things by weight, especially in strictly vegan recipes, I find is one of the best ways to do things, and you will find that things are measured in weight in a lot of European recipes. I will link below the recipe that I am using for this. I'm pretty sure from the spelling that it is a European recipe. Everything is measured in weight and stuff, so yeah, that's a lot more accurate than volume. So that's what I'm gonna be using. And now we are going to look at the directions. We are going to sift the icing sugar and almond flour into a large bowl. So I'm gonna go grab a sift and all that good stuff. Then we are going to vigorously mix in 1/2 of the chickpea juice or aquafaba until the mixture forms a paste. We are going to put the water and sugar in this pot here, and we are going to get it to a boil. Once it starts boiling, we are going to turn on the KitchenAid on high speed and start mixing the aquafaba that is in there. And once it reaches a little bit higher of a temperature, we're gonna pour it in there. She has all of the exacts in her recipe, and if you want to use a thermometer, like, go for it. Once everything is whipped up nicely, which should take about 10 minutes, bit of your food coloring. Don't have to do a bunch, obviously make it as blue as you like. Once you have it to the desired color, I went for a kind of baby blue color, add in this earlier paste that you made and mix in until it is thoroughly combined. The directions say don't be afraid to be a bit forceful, scrape it in, you know, all that good stuff. So, once you have it all mixed up and it's in like a thin consistency, you're going to put it in a piping bag and then you are going to pipe it into rounds onto a baking sheet. After you pipe the small rounds onto it, you're going to let it sit for an hour. Once the trays have finished setting, we are going to pop them into the oven, which should be preheated at 250 degrees. And we will be putting in the trays one at a time for 25 to 30 minutes each, but checking them at 20. After the 25 to 30 minutes are up, you're going to take the macarons out of the oven, and then I would say let them wait for about 10 minutes before you start trying to pull them up, because the bottom have to dry so that when you pick them up, they are, you know, the way a macaron should be with the flat. Now, if you touch them too hard, they are a bit fragile, so you might end up with a little hole in them. And if you take them out too soon, you may leave behind their entire bottom. So, yeah. But, more or less, you will put them all on a cooling rack and wait for them to cool completely. And after that, we will make their frosting. So to make the frosting, you will need 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, half a tablespoon of melted coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of agave nectar, half a tablespoon of vanilla extract, and 1 medium avocado. And once it is all blended, yeah, it will be, you know, a frosting consistency. I tried adding blue food coloring, and to be honest, it's like a really intense dark blue. The cocoa powder kind of makes it difficult to see any other color, so yeah. This isn't technically in the recipe, I think it's mostly a spreading thing, but I am going to attempt to be fancy and pipe it, so we'll see how that goes. Now, the fun part comes in finding which tops match which bottoms, which Percy matches which Annabeth, which Hazel matches which Frank, you know? So we're just gonna go through and kind of figure out what two will best fit together, because, you know, we don't want them to look too weird. So like, here is a pair. And then I'm just gonna set them next to each other as pairs are found. They don't have to be absolutely perfect, but as close to perfect as possible would be ideal. Now, some of them are going to be a little weird shaped, and if you're lucky, you're going to have a few that are similarly weird shaped. Like, I have quite a few eggy looking ones, and we're going to pair those together. But every once in a while, you're going to end up with one of these. It kind of looks like a mushroom. Not really sure why. It spread differently while it was drying the first time around. That's okay, it's probably not going to have a match. It can be a Huntress of Artemis. We can figure out something else to do with those. Now, you may be thinking, but Liz, what happens if they look like they're a good match, but then after finding everyone else their perfect match, I realize that there's just 2 that made sense at the time, but they just don't go together. And that's okay. You do the thing that Rick Riordan would do. You kill one of them off. finally, we are going to get into making the meringues, and this is another thing that I've never made, even non-vegan, so I'm excited to try it for the first time. But I have been doing so much reading on meringues, and there's just some like sciencey things that I need to let you know beforehand. First of all, make sure that all of your equipment has been completely cleaned and completely dried. One stray ingredient from one of our previous recipes will completely throw it off and they will fall flat. The second thing is make sure that you are using oil, or that you are not using oil-based ingredients. Only use things that are water-based or alcohol-based. If you use something with oil in it, it will fall flat. This means that you cannot put in cocoa powder, you cannot put in an extract like peppermint extract because it most likely has peppermint oil in it. Any extracts that you use have to be alcohol-based because if they're oil-based, your meringues will fall flat. Another thing that you should not put in meringues is lemon zest because the zest of a lemon has oil in it. It will fall flat. There is a whole list of things on the recipe that I am using that includes everything that you have to be careful of, so just make sure you give that a read. And hey, for anything else not to do, watch Dan and Phil make their meringues last year. I kid, mostly. Mostly. The ingredients that you will be needing are 3/4 cups of the chickpea juice, the aquafaba, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1/2 teaspoon cream of tartar. And the first step will be to mix in your vanilla extract into your sugar and set it aside. Next, add the aquafaba to the mixing bowl. Next, you are going to mix the aquafaba on medium speed. After about 1 minute, we're going to add in the cream of tartar and then mix it on high until it starts to form peaks. Not stiff peaks, but medium peaks. So the whisk will still go through it, but it won't stand up perfectly straight, you know. After that, we are going to add in the sugar 1 tablespoon at a time, waiting 30 seconds between each mix. And now I'm gonna, actually do it. We are going to stop it, and then we're going to take a little bit between our fingers, rub it around, make sure that it is not grainy from the sugar. And if it's not, then we're good to go. And you can probably tell I added just a little bit of blue food coloring, so it's a little bit of a pastel blue. It was as good as I could get because I didn't want to worry about, changing the consistency too much. But if it is still a little bit grainy, you just continue kneading. The one nice thing about aquafaba meringues is that you cannot overbeat them according to the recipe that I'm following. For our 3 mini Percy Jackson themed treats, perfect for throwing a little birthday party or something like that. They are so cute. I am so proud and so happy with how they turned out. And of course, the final test is to taste them. So I pulled out some of the cutest of each of them to give a little taste. So we'll see. Alright. 10 out of 10 for the blue velvet. And also look how nice and blue that got. I love that. Alright. This one, definitely good. Next up, the vegan macaron with the little decoration on the top. You can definitely taste that the frosting was made with avocado, but I kind of dig it. Obviously, you can use any recipe for the ganache, so yeah. And finally, the meringue cookie, which turned out amazing, by the way. Like, look at how beautiful and fluffy this is. It like melts in your mouth. That's incredible. I have no idea what a meringue is supposed to taste like, but I love that. So that concludes our vegan treats for this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below if there is another fandom that you would like to see some sort of baked treat for, because, you know, I'm always up for baking. You can follow me in the links in the description box below, and make sure to keep an eye on my other channels, because there are still a few videos left for this week. Be a bro, share this video with another demigod bro, and if you have not done so yet, subscribe, because there's still one more video coming to this channel this week.